The gap that was never there. Most people live their whole lives trying to solve problems at the level of effects. They react to what already happened. They chase symptoms because the cause seems hidden, distant, mysterious. So the mind imagines a long delay between what it thinks and what it sees. That delay feels like a gap. But shrinking the gap between cause and effect is really about learning that the cause is always the mind and the effect is always the world that seems to appear afterwards. And the shrinking happens when the mind begins to notice that connection faster. Not years later, not hours later, but right now. Here's the story. A young student named Marcus liked to blame his temper on everything except his thinking. If someone cut him off in traffic, he said the driver made him mad. If a teacher gave him criticism, he said the teacher ruined his day. Marcus saw effects everywhere, but no cause. One afternoon, he sat in class with his fists tight, his face hot. He had gotten a text message that wasn't even rude, it was just unexpected. But he exploded inside. His teacher walked over and said, "Notice what happened. The text didn't put anger into you. You supplied the anger." Marcus froze. He was used to thinking the world did something to him. The teacher continued, "There's a gap between the moment a thing happens and the moment you feel your reaction. That gap is where your decision sits. Most people never see it. They think the outside world jumps straight into their emotions. But if you learn to see your decision, the gap shrinks." Marcus spent the next week watching his mind. Someone bumped his shoulder in the hallway. He felt the flash, but now he caught it. He could see the moment where he decided what it meant. That tiny moment used to be invisible. Now it was clear. The gap had shrunk. Here's the metaphysical flip. Cause isn't what someone else does. Cause is the meaning the mind gives. Effect is the feeling and the world that seems to rise out of that meaning. When the mind believes the world is the cause, the gap looks huge and confusing. When the mind recognizes it is the cause, the gap collapses. It's like turning on the lights in a dark room. You don't stumble around anymore, wondering why you keep hitting furniture. You simply see. Here's a practical example. A friend cancels dinner at the last minute. Effect: disappointment, irritation, the sense of being unimportant. Most people stop there. But shrinking the gap means catching the cause immediately. I just told myself this means I'm not valued. The moment that interpretation is seen as the cause, the emotional storm slows down. Another example. Someone posts a comment online that feels insulting. Effect: hurt. But with a smaller gap, the mind notices, I assigned the meaning, the comment didn't climb inside me. The cause-effect relationship becomes obvious. Another metaphor. A fire alarm goes off in a building. Most people run around trying to fan the smoke. They open windows, they wave towels, they shout. That's solving at the level of effects. But shrinking the gap means turning your head and seeing the burning pan on the stove immediately. That instant recognition is the entire miracle. In A Course in Miracles, the gap is only a symbol for delay in recognition. There's no actual gap in truth. Mind thinks, and the world reflects. But in the dream, the recognition is slow. Shrinking the gap means the mind remembers right away that nothing comes from outside. This creates a new kind of freedom. If the mind sees the cause instantly, the world loses its power to frighten. If the mind delays seeing the cause, the world seems full of attacks. And one last story. A woman sits at her kitchen table reading a hurtful message from her sister. Old habit. Feel wounded for days. New habit. Pause, breathe, look inward. Then she sees the cause. I told myself this message means she doesn't love me. Then she asks a better question. Is that true, or is that just what I decided? The moment she sees she decided it, the emotional pain softens. The gap shrank. This is how the Course teaches mastery. Not by controlling the world, but by seeing, faster and faster, that the world is not the cause. Cause lives in the mind. Effect appears in perception. And the more quickly the mind recognizes this, the gentler life becomes.